This is like an old school moment for us.
It's like full circle.
So about 25 years ago, David Bernad, who we called Clank David at the time, was playing college basketball at McGill, I believe it was.
Is that right?
Well, I went to go play. My voice is almost up. But I hurt my ankle freshman year.
Oh, right.
And I ended up not playing. But I think it was between my freshman and sophomore years, I worked for you guys. 25 years ago.
Yeah. So he worked with Brett.
25 years ago?
He worked with Brett. CK was not an intern, but CK was like an associate producer. Now he's like the big boss. He was saying it's wild. I was like, yeah, CK runs this, doesn't run the building, but he
runs a lot of the company. He runs a lot of the company.
He's a big Willie.
Yeah.
But hold on, let's get David's story. So when you decided you wanted to intern at a radio station, what were you thinking? Just anything to get into the sort of
Did you listen to us at Bullis? Like you went to Bullis.
I was obsessed with you guys. So I grew up listening to Howard Stern.
Right.
Grew up listening to you guys. I was obsessed with talk radio, sports radio.
Right.
And I really wanted to work for you guys. And so I had a connection through DeMatha, Coach Mike Hibbs, who knew.
Oh, yeah, Hibby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So he connected me with you guys, and thank you. And got me the job. But something I should tell CK 25 years later, I actually faked my letter from McGill to get the job. I forged it all. I had to get college credit, and they said no.
So I remember, you just said, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember being in my freshman dorm, and I literally had someone fake a document for me to get the job. So.
That's okay, so man. It works out.
So, so you came, and you're like, all right, but you were obsessed with talk radio. I get it. So was I. So were a lot of us that were here. That's probably who I felt these and Drabby and CK, and a lot of us are in radio. You do the internship with us, and then do you finish school? Like, what happened?
Yeah, I had the best summer, first off, working for you guys. And I don't know if you remember, I was like your stuttering John. You would send me out to ask obnoxious questions of athletes, and I was fearless.
I text
tape.
Is that the Will Clark? Do you have that?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
find the Will Clark.
I know, but I have the interaction with Brett.
Okay. I sent a text to Brett, and I said, I was like, we're going to have David on the show tomorrow. It's like, what do you remember about him the most? I was like, I remember, the celebrity shootout with Will Clark, because he was kind of behind Brett. Brett was asking questions, and Brett said he was nervous, and then David repeated, "Nervous man, nervous."
That's the line I remember from him the most. Yes, nervous man, nervous.
That's his signature line on the Junkies. Mm-hmm. And then Brett gets choked out by Will Clark because he was bitter.
Yeah.
And we do that. But then he said another thing about David, and this is a tried and true. I told this to Brett, this is a tried and true formula, that we used to goof on him for not banging enough chicks.
Right. I bet he solved that problem.
No comment.
Yeah. But that was like, I was like, well, that's pretty much fill in the blank for whoever is like our young guy.
But like, how old were you at that point?
Evergreen
like,
for the
20,
show.
Right?
I was 20.
Okay.
21.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, when you're 20, you're still trying to find your way around.
All right, hold on.
With women.
For people that don't know, that are just tuning in, just give David, Cakes, you could do it probably off the top of your head, just his top resume.
Well, I mean, he's executive producer of the White Lotus.
Right.
He's produced Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney. He did Jury Duty, executive producer, which we loved on, I believe that was on Prime.
No, or was it Pluto?
Freevee, Prime, whatever. Whatever they're calling themselves.
But anyway, going back to what Eric said, so how did you
and those are just some
get into it?
Because for people to understand who we're talking
to. I don't remember what you were studying in college.
So I knew I wanted to be a producer. I think working for you guys was like a thrill and kind of like
it was like a one-off.
Yeah, like a bucket list thing for me. And then I went back to McGill, honestly, I mean, truly. And I kind of just was hustling. The next summer I went to LA. I interned for a producer at Warner Brothers. And then I eventually graduated, and I really wanted to work in the mailroom. I wanted to start at the bottom. It was like this fantasy. And I think I used you guys, or tried to use you guys, to get connections to LA to help me get into the mailroom.
There's no way that helped, though.
It did not help, but I tried.
I
tried. I tried.
It was good theory.
We don't have a lot of clout in Hollywood. In case
we were syndicated for 3 years, so we were national for 3 years.
Those were those 3 years.
Yeah.
But I really did. I tried to help you. I think you guys tried to connect me with an agent or something, and then I went out to LA, and I was like, thought it was gonna be easy. And I remember it took me about 6 months to get my first job in the mailroom. I was just grinding and hustling.
What does that mean when they say the mailroom? Is that like working at the freaking post office? Like, what does that mean?
So back then it was really a mailroom. So I was, you'd have to wear a suit, and you would literally push a mail cart and deliver mail to people. And this is when scripts were not emailed; they were printed.
Right.
And I would draw. I mean, I did crazy stuff. And I was really ambitious. So I would go into people's offices and I'd be like, whatever you need, I'm your guy.
Right.
So I was doing crazy stuff.
You're like,
doesn't exist anymore.
I got abused on radio, so I can handle whatever you guys have to throw
By the way,
me.
kind of. No, but and so then I literally was delivering mail and I would deliver packages and, ex-client was drunk and left his car at this bar. You have to go pick up the thing. And, this actress is afraid to drive on the highway. So can you go to her house and
you could really network this way.
Yeah, but like doing really weird things.
And you showed people you would do whatever it took to get your foot in the door.
Exactly.
So you had no life.
I had no life. I was working, making $25,000 a year, working 80 hours a week.
But you loved it.
Loved it. I loved every second.
Did you have to do the bit where you dressed up as like Johnny Depp from Pirates of the Caribbean, like outside of the Chinese theater to like augment your salary? Like $24K in LA doesn't go a long way.
No, I was living with 2 roommates in a tiny place, paying $400 a month in rent and lived like eating, Slurpees and hot dogs and chips at 7-Eleven and just grinding.
Sounds like my college career.
While we did the show.
We had that in common.
Sounds like the life.
Yeah.
But then it's just a hustle. And then I started just producing. I would meet young filmmakers and producing short films, and Funny or Die had just started. And I did a lot of the first Funny or Die videos, and then just hustling. And I eventually met Mike White, who I do, White Lotus with. And
so you're always like a creative guy too, not just like a hustler. Like you knew, and I heard you talking in the background, like you're a big reader. Were you always that way?
I think so. I mean, the truth is, and Mike Hibbs at Bullis, my basketball coach, and I flew him out for the premiere last week in
Thailand.
LA. And I flew him in. I did a Thailand
LA.
premiere last week, and then I did an LA premiere. And
right.
For me, that was like a real emotional moment, because I told him when I was in high school, I'm going to fly you out to a premiere. And he came, and it was really his English class, to be honest, that really...
He was actually a great English teacher. I had him my freshman year. Yeah, he's great.
And
That's wild. So he was at DeMatha
and then
and Bullis?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He's been around a lot, yeah.
He really got me hooked on stories and reading and changed my life. And the truth is, like, and I told him this last week, like, nothing will ever be as tough as those Bullis basketball practices. And when I started in the mailroom, you have these guys who are yelling at you and kind of grinding, but I would be like, nothing. You're
take it,
you're nowhere near nowhere near as tough as Mike Hibbs. So
right.
All right, we're joined by David Bernad. Right now, he's the producer of White Lotus.
Executive
season
producer.
3.
The top producer.
Episode 1 came out on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It was a banger.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
It was very good.
Episode 2 on Sunday on Max. So let's be honest. We've goofed a lot about D-Train. I think we got to address it. He put us in the movie D-Train. We didn't really know what we were getting into. There's a twist in that movie.
Oh, there's a dark theme to that, right?
I'll tell you something funny is, well, first off, the movie went to Sundance, played in competition, which is the hardest section to get into, killed. You made a massive mistake. We sold it to the wrong distributor. But there's a whole storyline about Banana Boat in that movie, and we had to go and get product and get them to give us their likeness. So when they ask you what the movie's about, we're like, okay, well, we're not going to tell them everything.
Right.
There's a big twist.
Yeah.
So we just sent them the scenes that had Banana Boat. They were like, cool.
Okay.
Jack Black, James Marsden, sounds funny. I'll never, for the rest of my life, forget the looks on their faces at the premiere when they realized what they had signed up for.
Right.
Shock. Never heard from them again.
By the way, James Marsden, Jury Duty.
Yeah.
He's in Paradise right now, which is really good on Hulu. I've noticed this in series like on Max or whatever. Do you have go-to actors and actresses that you put, like, that's one of your go-tos?
Yeah. So James and I became really close after D-Train, and he's one of the funniest, if not the funniest person I've ever met.
Seems like a good dude. Like
excellent human. Yeah. And we worked together now 3 or 4. I did these. Did you guys ever see 7 Days in Hell?
No.
The Andy Samberg is a tennis mockumentary on HBO.
Okay.
And then I did one, which are really fun. And then we did one about the Tour de Pharmacy, about the Tour de France. Marsden's in that. And then when I was casting Jury Duty, I'm like, I need a famous person who's really funny, who's not going to ask me too many questions. And I think when James signed up for it, he had no idea what he was signing up for, genuinely. So he called me like the first week when we were doing rehearsals, and he's like, wait, what is this show? I was like, he really had no idea. But he's amazing. So yeah, so for me, Immaculate came out of working with Sydney on season 1 of White Lotus. And I will say I was in Thailand making White Lotus, and I heard the review you guys did. Someone did a great review of Immaculate,
Okay.
which was thrilling for me. So thank you. I still check it on you guys. I'm still, for me, when you guys like something, it's the biggest compliment.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
It's
cool.
true.
Well, that's
Genuine.
Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
I guess you never met Kevin McCarthy, but that's who did the
Kevin's
review.
like one of our other stars that's blossomed from the show. David's up there. I think David might be our biggest star. I think he's surpassed Kevin. Yeah, for sure.
I said David, Brett's killed it.
Yeah,
And we're still stuck here.
we're still the
Yes.
same
Like,
losers.
we're just doing this forever.
And
So who was the? Who
Did
was
you
your-
know, by the way, did you know Sydney Sweeney was going to blow up like she has?
Yeah. I
Really?
genuinely, I met her in a meeting. She came in and pitched me an idea for a TV show. And I was like, oh, this woman's a star. And she was so
How'd
different
you
from
know?
her. Like, just, I mean,
the jugs? Like, how'd you know? Like,
Aura. She probably had an aura to her.
yeah, she knew Aura. No, but I take meetings with so many people and I've met thousands. You take these general meetings and she came in, she just kind of had that X factor, the eye test. As
Like,
they
was
say in sports.
was she a complete unknown at that point? Like, or just she had done a few things? And...
She had done Euphoria. And so I, when I met with her, she was like she's completely different from that character in real life. So you realize how good of an actress she is.
talented,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And then when we were casting White Lotus, we were casting it really quickly. We needed someone for that part. I maybe her agent called or casting director brought her up and I was like, oh yeah, she'd be perfect for this part. And we kind of, yeah.
I still don't understand how you make the transition from doing odds and ends and, picking up drunk actresses and then, you do some stuff for Funny or Die, which I guess is really maybe your first break, right?
Yeah.
But how do you discover and other people trust that you really are a creative guy? And
it's funny on reflection, it's hard. I couldn't even tell myself how to do it.
yeah,
But it was really genuinely just hustle,
hard work.
And
Who gave you your first break though that really crossed you over?
so Mike White. So I was Mike's
Tell me more about him.
Yeah, Mike is the greatest. Mike, wrote School of Rock, wrote
Okay.
The Good Girls, Jennifer Aniston movie. And
So that's Jack Black, School of Rock,
right,
which,
right.
again, connections. So he did that.
Yeah.
Then does D-Train.
exactly. And so Mike then did Nacho Libre and was in post on this movie called Year of the Dog. And I was working at UTA in the mailroom and I was working for an agent and I wanted to be a producer. And so Mike's assistant at the time was like, why don't you come work for Mike? Mike's starting a company, a Paramount, and you should do that. And thought about it and of course jumped on it. It's funny. I went to go interview with him and I was wearing my cheap suit and I had really cheap shoes on and Mike hated my shoes and was like
right away.
He's like, this guy's not cool.
Yeah.
And didn't hire me. And his assistant, who I had always been nice to and kind of paid it forward, and she forced Mike to hire me. And that was 20 years ago. And I was hustling and
Grilling
grinding.
his shoes now. He's wearing white Nikes.
Yeah.
All right.
And I was his assistant and I was hustling and making these short films on the weekend. And I made a bunch of digital shorts. I did something with Ashton Kutcher and I was doing these the James Franco, Mila Kunis, Funny or Die video. And Mike gets a show picked up at HBO called Enlightened, this Laura Dern show. And I was his assistant and he looked at me and he goes, you should produce it. Why don't you produce this for me? And that was it. That was the jump I went from assistant to producing.
How did he know you could do it?
What does producer mean? For people that don't know, I've always kind of struggled with that. Okay, director makes sense. An editor makes sense. What does a producer do?
By the way, my parents still have no idea what I do for a living. Producer is kind of like a GM, a little bit of a sports team, and really, but more so, it's like I basically fit in I'm like the glue guy. No matter, with the filmmaker, director, showrunner on a TV show, if they're not strong at casting, they're not strong at development, they're not strong in the editing room, they hate dealing with the network studio, I basically fill in. And some people need more than others. Mike White, who I do White Lotus with, is a genius. And, my job on White Lotus is different than Jury Duty, which was an idea that I had conceived with another producer. And we went to writers with it and then sold it. And that one requires a much more of a creative lift. And so producers really, every project's a different kind of skill set.
Do you do funding too, or is that just another art? Like that's the studio just takes care of that.
And that's the confusing part, is that some producers just finance.
Okay.
I go out and raise financing. Like D-Train or Immaculate was an idea that we conceived and then went out and raised financing.
So how does that work? Who do you go to? What do you do?
So Immaculate, for example, that was a movie. I had Sydney Sweeney. I had a horror script. I basically, I was watching Sydney on season 1 of White Lotus. There was these kind of darker scenes, and I was sitting and I was looking at her on the monitor. I was like, she's brilliant, and she would be brilliant in a horror movie. And I literally went up to her between takes and said, we should do a horror movie together. She's like, I love horror. Let's do it. Then we spent about a year looking for the right project. This was a script that she had read before and loved. And she's like, if you get the rights to this, I'll do it. So then I had Sydney, I had the script. And I basically went out to, there's financiers in Hollywood that everyone, there's like 15 great ones. So we basically sent the script around. We had 6 offers. And then we basically went with this guy, Teddy Schwarzman, his company Black Bear. And so they fully financed it, gave us $12 million. And, you know, that's it.
I see the budget on that was $9 million, makes 35 plus. So that's got to be considered a success.
That was a major success.
You're making 4 extra money, right?
Yeah.
All right, we want to talk about White Lotus. Bring him back.
Yes, I got it.
All right,
He
so
gets 2
David,
he gets 2.
bring you back. We'll talk about White Lotus. Talk about, I mean, over the years we've talked about you because we like saw you holding hands with Kate Hudson, or I don't know if she was holding hands.
I mean, what a life this guy's.
But I'll tell you, like, people text me when they hear you guys. It's still my friend Kevin Miller, who's probably listening now. I was in Thailand, maybe drunk last week. Someone texts me, and I'm like, how do I get in touch with these guys? And you guys are making fun of me, which I love.
So David Bernad is joining us in the studio. Who's David Bernad? On the show, basically 25 years ago, he was known as Clank David. I told this recently when we said you were coming on the show. The reason is he had this college basketball reputation, played basketball at Bullis. First time we go play at the George Mason Fieldhouse with Brett. I don't know. My bar was really high. Like, my expectations for David were like great, and he was fine, but he wasn't as good as what I thought. Called him Clank David at stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he was always bitter. Like, he would get mad because he was like, we got to play again. He wanted to like prove himself.
You can tell he's a passionate dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Passionate dude. All right, so tell us a story that you said that you said you were going to save it for the air about, you know, how when you're a kid and sometimes people say things to you, and we actually said something to you that stuck with you.
He said it penetrated, and not many things penetrate.
Like I said, I was 20. It was very impressionable. I was searching for mentors.
Okay.
At that point.
We were your guys.
You guys were my mentors.
By the way, Valdez, are you impressed by any of this? This superstar that we've groomed?
I'm very impressed. I want to know where I went wrong in life.
Right. Yeah. Why are you still here?
Yeah. My head hurts from hitting the glass ceiling.
Because you were listening at the same time.
Yep.
Right.
So you're at Bullis, you listen to us.
I think you're a very creative guy.
I'm very impressed, and I like all of his shows. I was a big fan of Jury Duty, huge fan of White Lotus.
Yep.
Right.
Not so much D-Train.
It's okay, man. It's all
good. Go ahead, David. So give us a setup.
So I'm 20, you know, looking up to you guys. And for me, again, like, that summer was one of the best summers of my life. I had so much fun working for you guys. I loved it.
Were we dicks? I mean,
no.
We kind of were.
No, you were. Listen,
in good spirit.
You guys were great. You were a little bit standoffish.
Me personally?
Yes, you were a little aloof.
Yeah.
I was always trying to make you laugh.
Me?
Yeah. But and you know, so I can't remember, it was Jason. So basically, one of you guys, it might have been Jason, said to me, listen. So I was 20 at the time. He goes, listen, the best years of your life, 23 to 25.
It's probably Jason.
And he goes, best years of your life. Goes downhill from there. And I was like, wow, really? And so
that's definitely a Jason.
I'm like,
he's probably drunk.
Yeah.
But he said it to me, and I was like, oh my God. And I'm telling you right now, like, you know, I have very close friends from Bullis, but close friends from college. I am the only friend in my group that is single, not married. I'm still living like I'm 23. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I gotta just never get older than 23.
Right. You're stuck.
For real.
So maybe we ruined your life.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But there's some truth to that in that. All right, 23 to 25. Like, I wanted to go to his premiere last night, but I had to take my kid to swimming practice. My wife's working. Right. Can't make it to a premiere.
That's what someone else said it to me yesterday too. You're like, you don't know. You're trying to schedule, make plans. You don't understand what it means to be married or have kids. Like, I'm like just single. I have no responsibility. So, drop of a hat, I'm anywhere. Right. And I don't contextually understand my friend's dilemma.
But so you have parents. You got are your brothers married? You said your brothers are in LA too?
My little brother's married, has a kid. My little brother's single. So
are they in the business? Did you bring them along, or
my little brother? We always had we always had this dream of working together. He you know, one day he may start writing. We're still waiting. He's 42 now. My older brother, my older brother was a doctor, moved to LA, and he married someone famous, and now he kind of just
chills.
Chills, yeah.
Come on, who's the famous person that he married?
He's married to Sia, the singer.
Oh, yeah, she's
that's pretty
unbelievable.
famous.
Yeah, who's great. He's wonderful.
So he doesn't even practice medicine
Doesn't
anymore?
practice anymore.
Yeah, well, let me
don't
look
have
up her
to.
net worth.
Now, she was the one that was famous because she would hide behind her hair for the longest time, right? Because she was self-conscious about stuff.
Well, I think that's a
That's
genuine
your sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law. She's wonderful. She's great. She's wonderful. She's great to my family and my brother. I think my brother, he was a radiation oncologist and worked insane hours, and I think she was kind of recognized that he should, take a break,
Right.
Relax, enjoy life
Dial
a little
it
bit.
back a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So what does he become good at? Is he a good golfer, tennis player? What does he do?
He's great at going to parties. If you were like,
He's a socialite.
he's a socialite. It's like, what's the best party in the world? He'd be like, okay, what month are we talking? January, okay, Phuket, Circle Loco, great
Right.
party. February, you got to go to Rome.
Right.
He knows where to be at any moment.
All right, so let's get to White Lotus. New York Post had a nice article about White Lotus.
Very good, yeah.
How about David?
Where
I mean,
David's
you know
got pictures in the New York Post and everything.
Part of what I love about White Lotus is I can be transported to all these beautiful places without leaving my home. I don't need to fly to Thailand. I can watch White Lotus. I don't need to go to Italy. I can watch White Lotus. Don't need to go to Hawaii. Can watch White Lotus.
So part of the article
it's
was about
perfect.
how you choose locations.
Yes.
So obviously there's somebody writing a script.
Yeah. Well,
When does the location get in there? Because I would think they write the location in the script and then you got to make it happen.
Yeah, I think
it's not that way.
No, I think I think the first thought is like, what is the theme of the season? Season 2, we wanted to explore sexual politics. So really, we were like Europe. We wanted to go to Europe. We wanted a
What
country.
does sexual politics mean?
Like, I think like this first season was really about money and
Okay.
power.
Yeah.
I think season 2 was always going to be this kind of bedroom farce and kind of this idea of the complexity of sexuality and kind of how sex kind of can drive our decision making and really kind of create a power dynamic between couples or people that are single and so we were really focused on France and Italy and we didn't know where we were going to go and Mike, who writes all the scripts, wasn't sure, and we went on a scout, and it's kind of like speed dating. And you're kind of going to go and you're like, I'm seeing 3 hotels a day.
Mhm.
You're going to the best hotels in the world, but you're for 3 weeks, we're in a van or flying around and you're basically going in and immediately you're like, this is not right. You're sitting,
trying to think how it's going to look on TV or
yeah.
whatever.
Or, you're looking at photos. It's kind of like online dating. You're like, swiping on Raya or something. You're like, oh, she looks odd. And then you sit down, you're like, oh, it's not for me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's like with these hotels. But then you have to be nice. So you basically have to spend an hour faking it. Oh, cool.
Right away.
Right.
You're out.
Right away. Yeah. So then you have to like struggle through an hour of small talk with these random GMs. And so season 3, we were like, okay, we're going to go shoot in Japan. We were like, we love Japan. We almost did a movie in Japan. And HBO was like, just as a courtesy, go to Thailand. Just do us a favor. There's a great rebate there. It's cheaper to shoot. Just, go check it out. So we're like, okay, sure.
So
we'll
they're
go.
on board. Mike is writing the script. You're
Yeah.
producing. The glue guy.
Yes, the glue guy. And so I was in Italy doing Immaculate, and I flew from Rome to Bangkok, and we started our search, and we started in Thailand, and we just kind of fell in love with Thailand, and it's one of those countries that just the warmth of the people, food, the culture, it's very intoxicating. And so we started traveling through, and really the reality of what happened was we were in the north in Chiang Mai, and Mike got bronchitis and was really sick and ended up in the hospital. And I think the way the nurses treated him really kind of just made him fall in love with Thailand. And they gave him this thing called a nebulizer. It's a strong steroid. Took a nebulizer. He was up for 2 days hallucinating.
Oh.
And he literally hallucinated the season. And the next day he gets in the van and he says to me, I haven't slept in 2 days and I have these really vivid dreams. And this is what I dreamt. And
Yeah, like a vision.
Get a
almost,
vision.
yeah.
And that's basically what we shot. And and then by the time we left Thailand and went to Japan, we knew we were shooting in Thailand. And then the whole Japan trip became this like vacation for us.
Just enjoy it.
Let's just use HBO's money and have a great time in Japan. And yeah, I mean, basically what we shot is what he dreamt.
Wow. And then are you involved in that creative part of it? The story that,
Yeah, I mean, with Mike specifically, Mike is a genius. He breaks a story. It's all out of his head. When he wants to bounce ideas off of someone,
you
I'm
just
the guy.
listen to him.
I'm the guy, and he'll ask me my opinion. And we've had a 20-year collaboration. So I'm there for when he needs me. Something like Jury Duty, I'm breaking the story. I'm coming up with ideas with writers, and that's something that's like an all-encompassing creative experience. White Lotus, similar, but I'm basically there when he needs me.
I've only seen one episode of season 3. It's all that's been out so far. But Patrick Schwarzenegger He's very horny in the first
Very
episode.
horny.
He's very horned up.
He gets hornier.
You get to see everything basically. On Patrick Schwarzenegger.
What's up with a penis in White Lotus? There's so much penis every season.
Penis.
You got to give people what they want.
Yeah.
People, Twitter loves penises. You got to give them what they want.
Yeah. Does HBO have a problem? Like, what's the line?
There's no line, I think, with HBO. We haven't found it. If there's a line, we haven't found it yet.
Really?
We're constantly pushing the line.
Season 1, the guy defecated in some dude's suitcase.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no line with the show.
He's very upset.
HBO is the best place to work, honestly. Like,
By the way, you keep calling it HBO. Was it a big flop for them to switch from HBO to Max? Be honest.
I've done 6 shows with HBO at this point, and to me, I forget it's even Max.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
We forget.
Yeah. Of course.
Well, man, it's awesome.
Incredible story, dude.
The shows. I mean, now that shows are streaming, it's different how people consume it. But with White Lotus, it's every Sunday night.
Yeah, and I think it creates, a water cooler, hopefully, whatever a water cooler is, if that exists anymore. And I think it allows the show to build and the conversation to build. And in season 1, no one knew what it was. And I think if we had put 6 episodes out on a Friday night on Netflix or something, no one would have found it. And I think just the slow build of the show and the twists and kind of the whodunit allowed the show to build organically. And I'll just say this season, I think, is the best season we've done. And it gets to a demonic place, as I said. It gets to a really unexpected demonic place. And I love it. And I'm excited for people to see what happens.
You got Walter Goggins in it, who a lot of people love him from a lot of his work. He kind of first person on the scene in The Shield.
Yeah. He's very cranky in the first episode. He's
he's got a lot of character just in his face, right?
Yeah. He's an epic guy. I love Walton. He's like an actor's actor, incredibly fun. He's like a guy's guy.
You got Leslie Bibb,
yeah,
who, I don't know, she's been in a bunch of stuff. My wife and I used to watch some show. She did Housewife or American Housewife or something like that on ABC.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a broad question?
Yeah.
Oh, you said you've done thousands of meetings. You've met all these people. You've worked on all these different sets.
Yeah.
Who are the most brilliant? Like truly the most brilliant people that
it sounds like Mike White.
If
he just
Mike White's one.
Woke up from like a fever dream and just had the whole season in his head.
Is there someone like they always think like who's a guy like maybe even Ashton Kutcher you don't even give him that much credit for, but people might think he's not brilliant, but maybe he is. I don't know. Who's the guy that does that we think is not so great, but you're like no, this person's brilliant.
That's a great question. Oh, God.
They always make fun of Keanu Reeves, people like that.
But he's brilliant. I mean, that's the thing is like, I think to have that level of success and that sustained career, you have to be brilliant. Like James Marsden, I think is brilliant. He's a brilliant comedian. He's so funny. He's a great, and what he does is so difficult. He rides the line between drama and comedy and kind of, you can do Paradise and you can do Jury Duty. And there's not a lot of people that can do
And he can
those
do he's a star in one of the Disney movies with Amy Adams. The name is.
He's an incredible singer.
By the way, Mike White competed on Survivor and Amazing Race.
Yeah,
Valdez, you're gonna love Mike White. He was
I've already seen a season of Survivor.
So by the way, Amazing Race. I had friends of mine from college. I started with Mike. We were working in editorial together, and I was trying to connect with them. Like it was my first week on the job, and I was like, oh, I love Amazing Race. He loved Amazing Race, and I was like, we should apply together. And so Mike and I go out. We were wearing matching blue velour jumpsuits. We ran around LA filming this stupid video. We fill out the application. I drive to El Segundo. I drop it off in a box. 2 weeks later, CBS calls us, and I eventually got recast. They just didn't like me, and I got recast.
Unbelievable! It's a reality show.
I got recast for his dad, and I was so relieved because I was like 26 and I didn't want to be on a reality show.
Right.
Oh my God!
But I'll tell you something that was funny.
What's the best thing ever happened to you?
The best thing ever happened to me. I remember I worked for you guys that summer. The next summer I go out to LA, and I was telling you guys on the break, I always wanted to impress you guys. You guys were like that like withholding father that I just wanted to impress. And so I was working at Warner Brothers, and every actor that would come in, I would try to like buddy up with to get their info to call you guys and be like, hey, I got this guy so they can be a guest on the show.
Right,
and
I wanted to be Ryan the Bellhop.
Yeah.
And LL Cool J came in. And I was like, okay, this is my shot. I'm like, I got to buddy up to LL Cool J. I was like 21 at this time.
Right.
Probably wearing like bad outfit, bad suit or something. And I remember like buddying up with him and like, and I remember he like was like, yeah, these guys in DC, you should be on their show. and he gave me someone's info. He's like, yeah, like call my manager or something.
Right.
Like and I remember emailing you guys or calling you guys, being like, I got LL Cool J's info. I'm gonna get him on the show. And he probably gave you some fake email.
Right,
That,
right.
Anyways, I never delivered. But I'm gonna deliver someone for you guys next time I see you guys.
You delivered yourself, man. It's been an awesome time reconnecting with you. We got another guy coming on the show, Jim Van Stone, coming up next. But that's David Bernad.
Great to see you
Watch
guys.
the next episode of White Lotus on Max this Sunday.